Teachers of Reddit. What's the saddest thing a student has ever said to you? I once tutored a few girls in the same body of a student with dissociative identity disorder. I'd repeat entire sessions because X was present for the last lesson. But Y wasn't. S in control, and how much perception recollection she had at times. X once told me Y is really strong, so sometimes I'm in the back seat while she's driving. But sometimes I'm in the trunk in the dark. Don't get me started on Z. She was super sweet but very far behind and very rarely present. So she was basically just there to vibe out and talk basic math until X or Y showed up to drive. I was a substitute and was frequently called to one grade 1 class in a low socioeconomic neighborhood. One little guy was the sweetest little dude but had impulse issues and really struggled academically. I was in at least once a week, sometimes several days in a row, and got to know the class pretty good. One day I went in and he was telling me they took him away from his mom, and he was living in a different place now. I can still see his sad little face as he said, "But she's a good mom." It broke my heart, and over 15 years later, I still think about that sometimes. I'm not a teacher, but I want to share a story from an amazing English teacher I had. My anxiety got so bad, I had to drop out of high school. That very few moments I will remember as well as when Miss Pyle took me outside and actually cried because I think she knew. She understood but couldn't change it. I want to get back into creative writing one day, and wish I could let her know she always had a place in my heart to keep on pursuing writing. Anyway, yeah, I guess the worst thing, from the other end, was me saying ... I can't do it anymore. I was doing my practicum, and the best student in the class one taught said on my second day, "You should just give up on us, just like our original teacher. We have no hope." I know that they meant it, because their homeroom teacher actually didn't care about them. You can just tell the department already gave up on them, and their test results showed. Mirroring teacher, who was also supposed to be my mentor, decided to go on a study trip all the way to Japan with his favorite class before the midterm and left me, a rookie, in charge of everything. When I taught overseas, a student asked me how to cope with having no friends or family around. I was curious and we talked about making new friends, adjusting to new environments, etc. And he shared that his parents sent him to the school because it was far away and had a dorm, and they were rarely in touch. Parents just paid tuition and sent living expenses monthly. He had a hard time fitting in. I believe he was on the spectrum, but the country I taught in doesn't really believe in ed, and had no friends. It broke my heart. Not a teacher, but I did read the teacher's notes in my mum's first grade progress report. The teacher described how my mum was a sweet and curious student, but that she required a bit too much love, affection, positive reinforcement, and gentle physical interaction like hugs. What this teacher didn't know is that my mother was reaching out to her because of her horribly abusive home life. It makes me so sad to think that my dear mother so badly just wanted someone to love her and care for her to offset the horror of her home life. I was teaching my third graders about the civil rights movement. We walked through a couple of scenarios that would have happened during segregation, and I asked them what they would do if they witnessed some of those scenarios. One of the scenarios was, you are walking through your favorite park and begin to notice whites-only signs in the lawn. What would you do? One of my Latino students calmly raised their hand and responded, "I would paint myself peach." That fucking broke my heart right there in that classroom. I had to suspend a student for stealing. Couldn't get a hold of the parents on the phone, so I had to hand-deliver the suspension letter to the parents. When I pulled up to the house, I found the remains of a burned-out home. Turns out, the father and this student lived in the basement of the barely-standing house. He stole the item to pawn so that they could have food for the upcoming vacation week. Kid was a real Peter, but I simply could not put him out. I heard he got stabbed in a fight a few years later. So sad. Not a teacher, but I ran a Christian summer camp in a pretty poor area. I don't remember if it was colored pencils or markers, but I complicated a kid on their drawing, casually asking if they did it at home too. You can guess the answer. Those things weren't available there. See, we borrowing the physical church space, and the couple of local ecumenical organizations funding to program weren't specific. We sent the kids who wanted it home with the leftover craft dish supplies. I hope it helped, but who knows. I teach a small group of SEN teens English, and one was getting really upset about their writing not being good enough. I told him that it'll get better as he gets older if he keeps trying. But I won't get older. Why not? Mum says I will always be a useless child. Broke my heart. Teens I teach have quite high-functioning autism, so they know that they're different, and they know that they can't do anything to change it, and then they have parents that say shit like that. Not a teacher. But when I was a student, I was in an alternative education school for kids who were troubled or needed extra help. This one kid, who was always quiet, told us in the middle of class that his dad had shot himself in front of him, and he was 5. During lunch he would sit alone, so I sat next to him. Maybe said 1 or 2 words, got the feeling he didn't like talking, and told him I'd be there for him. I don't know where he is now, but I hope you're doing better. Brian. Wanted to be when they grew up, and one little boy said a phone, because both of his parents loved their phones and paid more attention to their phones that they loved or ever paid attention to him. As someone who's having my first baby in a week, this was a serious reminder about how important it is to be completely present with my baby child. Not said to me, but a kid in my class, a child of a law enforcement officer, told another, younger student, well, at least my mum didn't try to kill me. Turns out that child's mother had suffered a psychotic break the week before, and the kid along with a sibling had to fight her mum off of the sister in order to keep her from suffocating her to death. That one still haunts me. Who says that? How hurt must he have been himself to say that? In our elementary school, our students get to pick from 3 entree choices. One student was standing next to me, and he said, Ms. Op, I don't really like the main dish, but its bacon takes up a lot of the tray, so I know it'll fill me up, and I won't be hungry. This child rained terror on my classroom. I would always take any prize or goodie here and home to his younger siblings because they had little food. I had a student, 16, who would stay after school with me on Fridays and offer to help out in my classroom. She wasn't a particularly good student and didn't seem to like me, so I never understood why she stuck around. The following school year, a mother got arrested for prostituting her 3 daughters, including this student. I wish she had said something, or I had thought to ask questions. Not a teacher, but my wife is. She was working at a school with a lot of kids from the res. One sweet little girl was always asking to go home with her. The kid was maybe 8, 9. Wife got a transfer. Later found out the kid was a victim of SA. Wife said she was smart and had lots of potential. Kid kept getting on the bus till 13 and never turned up again. Prob affects me more than my wife tbh. Gave them a writing prompt. Would you eat a bowl of worms for $1,000? Why or why not? Silly stuff can be a good way to get them going. Kid comes back with paraphrasing, yes, definitely. The worms wouldn't be that bad. I'd probably just be sick for a few days. I'd be able to help my family with rent and electricity bills and help my cousins get out from the war in Sudan. Damn, kid. We did a writing prompt on Leap Day. What do you hope is different about your life and for years? Those answers. I hope my mom is out of prison and my dad starts to love me. I hope my eyes work better because I can't see good. He's 10. Aside from his mom being in prison, the rest of this was a complete shock to my system. I cried so hard in the parking lot that day. So fucking hard. Each year, but I mentor students in the 5th grade, and the student I'm working with this semester told me that she gets bullied a lot, made fun of by girls she used to be friends with, and she wants to die. She showed me pages of poems she wrote about feeling despair and giving up hope. We are writing a screenplay, and she wants her protagonist to kill herself at the end. Handed me a note that said, "Thus is going to cause problems. But my dad said he was going to shoot me with his gun. We had already made a child abuse report the days prior because he had marks on his neck from his dad choking him. I spent a very late night that day keeping him company at the Children's Services office while they found a foster placement for him. At said her student could get a full ride to college with his grades, but his mom shut that down and said that he was gonna work drywall like his dad. The kid looked so dejected and didn't say anything. Granted, you can make good money in trades. It would have been better if he made the decision to not go to college on his own. Tour act sat prep, but I had a student who needed mental health help, and when she went to the therapist, she didn't feel like the therapist was there to do anything but to tell her parents what she said. The next year I reached out to see how she was doing, and she said thanks for being a safe place for me. Made me break down. I just was there. I'm not a teacher, but I'll never forget accidentally walking in on my English teacher having a conversation with a kid in my class whose father committed suicide that year in high school. I don't know exactly what they were talking about, but from both of their faces I'm sure that poor kid said some truly heartbreaking things to our teacher that day. The prompt asked them to compare to similar experiences. One kid wrote about 2 times his mum threw something at him. I think the first was a tuna can and the second was a wooden music box. He specified that he would have cried after she hit him with the box, but he didn't have time as he needed to be in my class. I think about that kid every day.